got a really cool story to tell you guys about. Now I'm going to kind of cut to the chase as best I can. So the other night, there were some friends of mine who had this horse, and the horse rides around real gentle and all that. They said, you can swing a rope off of her, and you can rope off of her until you can't. Then she just goes berserk. So before I even got on the horse, I got the rope coils, and I kind of moved them, and she did move away, and she was bothering. So I led her around kind of progressively, moving it more and more. Then I got up on her and did some more of the same thing, and after about 5 minutes, I could actually put a loop in the rope, and I could even swing it without it affecting her at all. So then I made a little bit bigger of a loop, and I rocked it even bigger. And just a couple minutes after that, I was able to do 2 or 3 swings and then bring it down. If I did 4 or 5, she would start to get a little upset. So with this rope, I was staying just this side of getting into trouble with her. See, not putting more than she could handle, but always trying to hang in there without pushing her over the line, only going to the line. So altogether, maybe 10 minutes, I was able to walk and ride around on her and swing the rope, throw it out on the ground, coil it back in, and wasn't affecting her at all. And they had done some roping off of this horse, and that's what was kind of interesting. The horse would go back and forth. So up to this point, I had been doing really good. I started, kind of at the least amount of rope exposure as possible and slowly increased the exposure as the horse was raising that line, right? Well, then we went out into the arena where there was this plastic roping dummy, and it was also hollow. And if you've ever heard a catch rope hit a plastic roping dummy, it makes this really high pitch. No, kitty, we're making a video. Here, you go back down here. Come on, here, get back here. Look, that's a cat right there. That's a good kitty, best kitty in the whole wide world. So, it makes this really high pitched noise of just imagine thin plastic being hit by a rope. Okay, well, when I went up to the back of this roping dummy, I was just going to practice heeling it just for fun, right? At this point, I was kind of like, oh yeah, the horse is okay with the rope now. I'll just have some fun. Well, I noticed that when I tried to get the horse within 10 feet of the back of that dummy, the horse would always be kind of looking for a way out. It would look over here and kind of lean that way and then this way, and I would kind of reach down and be two-handed and kind of ride it up closer to the back of the dummy, and it would stand. The horse would stand there, but she'd really look around a whole lot, and she'd kind of teeter like she was ready to just kind of lean and fall off and kind of leave that way. Not in a real dramatic way, but it was definitely noticeable. She wasn't solid in her feet. What it was she was kind of unsure of the back of that dummy. Well, this is when I kind of skipped ahead a little bit. I knew that she was pretty clearly telling me like, hey, I'll go up to the back of this dummy, but I'm not real comfortable about it. She was kind of avoiding it. And this is where I made my mistake. I thought, okay, yeah, I'll just rope at it some and she'll kind of just get used to it from repetition, which sometimes does work. Well, after, I don't know, quite a few minutes of throwing my rope at the back of the heels of this dummy, it would make that noise on that plastic, and she was already teetering because she didn't want to be at the back of the dummy. So especially when the noise of the rope hitting the plastic, she'd just make a hard right and kind of go to leave. So I'd stop her, bring her back around, then made the mistake again. She just needs more exposure. I'll just do this more. Okay, well then I stopped and I thought for a minute, and the horse reminded me. She said pretty clearly, hey Carson, I know you want to go out and rope this dummy, but you skipped the steps. You got me to 8th grade and you thought that would just get you by and you could kind of fill in and have me at 10th grade. And I was wrong. So then I hung the rope on the fence, and I just practiced walking up to the back of that thing. And every time she would kind of point her ears at it, I would just really slacken the reins and pet her and everything. So pretty quick, she got to where she was really wanting to be right up against the back of that thing, and she would sniff it, and all of her insecurity of it was gone. Now, even one-handed, I could just kind of point her at it and barely tell her to go, and she would just kind of walk real free, whereas before she was kind of sticky and had to kick her and kind of drive her up in. Well, now she would just go right up into the back of it, and then she'd stand there sniffing it and just chilling out. I said, okay, now I'll get the rope back. And then I didn't let myself jump ahead this time. I said, okay, another thing that was bothering her was that noise. So I got my rope, and just as softly as I could, as she's standing right there behind it, I let the rope just kind of rub it. And just the slightest bit of that noise, she'd kind of get teetery again. So I'd back off and pet her, and I'd slowly just stand there and expose her to that. After a few minutes of that, she'd just stand there. And then, this is what's really cool. She just kind of hit this point to where it was like, okay, now I'm where I need to be up here. I'm confident, I'm secure. You can do whatever you want on me. Just all of a sudden, nothing bothered her anymore. So the owner had been watching this, and the owner had seen where even if you let it graze in the slightest noise, she'd get real scared. So I said to the owner, I said, hey, it just clicked. Watch this. And I took my whole coils, and I went, well, bam, right on the back of the plastic dummy, and just bam, bam. And it was making that loud plastic noise, and she just stood there. She was actually sniffing and licking the dummy as I was doing that right by her face. So then I got my loop built back. I came back around. I pointed her at it, just gave her the reins, and now this time she locked on and went right up there into the back of it. I started swinging through it. She just stopped and stood there and chewed. And for the rest of the night, everything was good. Now, when I first got on this horse, I got on it in a halter because I was too lazy to go get a bit from the owner's trailer. And they said, no, don't, she gets really bratty about this rope or whatever. Don't use a halter. So I told them, well, I'm going to use the halter because it's going to help me not overexpose the horse. Because if I overexpose the horse where I need that amount of control, I have pushed the horse not to the line, but past the line. So putting the halter on the horse was just kind of to help me remember, hey, don't just go in there and yee-haw something and get this horse to just wig out because so it was to help me stay in the right mindset and not jump ahead. Well, after we roped that dummy for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes walking and circling around, then started thinking about it, and I was like, man, it really clicked with this horse. So then I pulled the halter off, and I just put the lead rope around the horse's chest, and then for the rest of the night, I rode the horse around. Even when they pull the dummy with the gator side-by-side thing, I would go in there and swing and throw at her bridleless, and she would just track it. And it was a night and day difference. The owner, they've been around horses, all their lives, so they've been around, and they told me that they've never seen a horse go from what she had going on the last time they tried swinging a rope off of her to being able to ride around bridleless within, a matter of an hour maybe. Now, I want to tell you the key to that was that I stopped trying to go from 8th grade to 10th grade. I gave up what I wanted to do and did what the horse told me that I should be wanting to do, and that became my most important thing, was what the horse told me was the most important thing. And the result of that was being able to do all this bridleless. So always be aware, always be listening. They will always tell you, hey, I'm drawing a line here. Hey, you need to back down. Hey, now you can come back in. So you can work this line. And once the horse realizes that you have the ability to read what that line is doing, that their self-preservation instincts draw, once they catch on to that, that line will bump up, and then it will just dissolve. And then you can, it was a really cool deal. So work at the level they're at, don't get ahead of yourself. That was the biggest reminder for me that night. It was really good night. If you want to see more videos like this, you can become a Carson James Insider. It's a really cool deal, completely free. All of the details are right here. We will see you next time. Hope you enjoyed it.